here at PACEradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning. It's October the 17th, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News right here on PACEradio.net. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning, Al. How are you?
Not too bad. A little frosty here. We got some white stuff on the ground. Is in frost, not snow, but yeah, we got a good layer of frost out there.
Yeah, same here. I'm just waiting for these 18 and 19 degree days to come in a few days.
Yes, actually, today is our first day of warm-up. It's going to be up in the mid-teens, and we're going to end up around 19 or 20 over the weekend, so it's coming your way, buddy.
Yeah, we got about 12, I think, 13 maybe today. But after that, I think it's Sunday when it hits us. 17, 18, 19 for 5-6 days. I'll take it. I'll be out on the bike.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what today is?
Have no idea. I know it's Thursday.
That's right. You know, it's Thursday, October the 17th. But did you know that today is the 6th anniversary of cannabis in Canada, of legal cannabis?
Had no idea till right now.
Yep. Some people call it St. Fatty's Day. Some people call it Cannabis Day. No, it's cannabis legalization. It's the first day.
Well, happy Cannabis Day, everybody.
6 years, even though that one news source did say it was 7, but it is only 6 years.
It seems like longer for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, I know. And
maybe because I've been involved with the medical part of it before that, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah. TY right there. Yeah, it's been a long time, but 6 years legal cannabis. A lot less people going to jail for cannabis than we had before then.
Yep.
Is legalization perfect? No. There's lots of changes that need to be made. There's no doubt about that.
And we talk about that on a weekly basis.
Correct. Yeah. I have a friend who's been busted twice for 3 joints, and he's happy that he won't be busted for 3 joints anymore.
When I was younger, quite a bit younger, I got busted for 1 roach about this big. Yep. Had a criminal record for that. It was a juvenile criminal record, but it was a criminal record for this much.
A roach.
Yeah, a roach. And the cop saw me smoke it, and I put it out behind my back, and he came up, and it was literally a roach.
I know another fellow who was caught with a couple grams, had a lifetime record. None of that stuff's going to happen. Shouldn't be happening to people anymore. So, that's a good thing. But there's the bad things as well. Obviously there's still some fines for cannabis. It's not legal like tomatoes, like some people would like it to be. But
we still hear dispensaries getting busted out here at least once a month.
Yeah. Actually, there was we don't have the article today, but there is the OCS has got a thing that's going on where they're going to be setting up a fake cannabis store. So when people come in,
read that one last week.
Yeah. So that's going on. That'll be going on. I probably wouldn't doubt. I think it's right about this weekend. So. And
I believe most of that's about the indigenous cannabis stores. There's not so many pop-ups. There is a couple, but not many.
This is a pop-up OCS store, but we still have there's still lots of illegal cannabis stores that aren't on the reserve that are still happening in the cities. So there was a story on. We don't have it today with us, but there was one through the week. So, all right, talking about news, let's get at her. Here we go. First story of the day. Kamala Harris pledges to federally legalize cannabis if elected president. Now, this is legalize, not reschedule, right?
Yep. In a recent campaign agenda update discussing plans to deliver for Black men and their families, Vice President Kamala Harris, a Democrat, pledged to federally legalize cannabis if she is elected as the next U.S. president. The presidential campaign for Vice President Kamala Harris said on Monday that Harris would federally legalize cannabis if she wins. The announcement came via update of a campaign agenda focusing on the vice president's plan to deliver for Black men.
The 5-part plan includes legalizing recreational cannabis and creating opportunities for Black Americans to succeed in this new industry. According to the campaign, and the legalization policy would break down unjust legal barriers that hold Black men and other Americans back. During her tenure in the Senate, Harris, who was a prosecutor and attorney general in California, once worked to put Americans in jail for cannabis-related crimes. Evolved her political stance on cannabis and co-sponsored legislation to remove cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act.
The Biden administration is currently maneuvering to move cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 under the CSA. However, while this change would reduce restrictions, cannabis possession would remain a federal crime. And the vice president said on a podcast last month, "We have come to a point where we have to understand that we need to legalize it and stop criminalizing this behavior." Meanwhile, Harris's opponent, who's the former president Donald Trump, recently said he would vote yes on Florida's adult use cannabis amendment heading to voters this November, and that he supports rescheduling cannabis under federal law and giving cannabis companies the ability to access banking services. The former president, however, stopped short of supporting federal cannabis legalization and previously stated he believes it's an issue best left for individual states to decide.
What do you think about that decision to compare the two, federal legal or allowing the states to do it independently?
I'm not a fan of allowing the states to do too much independently. Abortion rights, things like that, I think should be federally regulated, not states or provincials, provinces as in Canada. I think it's a federal issue.
I look at it as in Canada, one of the reasons why we federally legalized it was because the law was interpreted across the country in different ways.
Yeah, same there.
And that's what would happen in state independently doing that, because you're going to end up with states where people are going to end up in jail for a few grams, and they could end up in jail for 5 years, whereas other states, they got stores selling it. Yeah.
And we know stories of people who are in jail for many, many, many more years for simple possession that grew to a bigger charge.
Yeah, exactly.
I was compare it to abortion, where each state now has the right to make their own laws. Yeah. Some states are very draconian in it, and they'll have a 12-year-old that can't have an abortion. Mm-hmm. And some states are very pro. How do you say it?
Choice.
Yeah, pro-choice. They're not. I'm pro-life, but right. I'm not against stopping someone else from doing whatever the hell they want with their life. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the way I think of it. If you go to one state and then you have to go to another for an abortion, then you come back and they charge you for having that abortion somewhere else where it was legal.
And
that's
they could do the same
with cannabis if they do that.
And they could do that with cannabis.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. And what do you do about going? You want to go to family 3 states over, but you got to go through a state to get there that could, you could risk your car, you could end up in jail, over the weekend, whatever, because you're being held back because they went through your vehicle.
It can affect your career. It can affect your finances. That you can't buy a house, you can't own a gun.
Oh, yeah.
There's 1,000 things that it affects. And from one state to another to have that law. What if you're a medical patient or your daughter? Your 6-year-old daughter has seizures, and you're using cannabis to stop those seizures, and you can't go visit your relatives because you can't go into that other state because they'll take your child from you. It's ludicrous. It has to be federally regulated.
There's other stuff as far as like interstate or cross border commerce and stuff like that would all be affected by it if it was just state to state. So I'm against that. I'm federal on the end. I agree with you there. So, all right, let's get the next story lined up. And this is a question I think that many people may have on the top of their mind, and that is, how much does a legal weed grower in Canada actually get from that ounce that you bought? And this comes to us from StratCan.
Ever wonder how much of your hard-earned dollars make it back to the grower when you pick up some cannabis at the store? A group of BC-based cannabis businesses recently launched a campaign to draw attention to just how little cannabis growers receive for their cannabis amidst a complex supply chain.
While the general public may think the cannabis industry is washed with cash, the reality is much more dire, especially for small craft growers who are not propped up by investors' dollars. The BC Cannabis Alliance, comprising around 2 dozen cannabis cultivators and processors in BC, says that they are seeking to draw attention to how issues like provincial and federal taxes and fees impact growers, especially BC's small craft cannabis growers.
As part of the campaign, the Alliance is sharing information with retailers and consumers on where the money consumers pay for cannabis actually ends up. Using a series of infographics that feature popular dried flower SKUs in the BC market, the organization breaks down how various levels of government receive a little over half of every dollar spent. In contrast, cannabis producers receive less than 20%. Using one example produced by the Alliance, a popular 28-gram package of cannabis sold in BC for about $82. $9. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, nearly $9 went to sales tax. $28 goes to the excise tax, 75% which goes to the BC government. And the BC LBD receives another $6 as the distributor. That leaves about $15 for the producer out of that $82 that the consumer spends. And that $15 often further is divided between processor and grower.
And you wonder why you can't afford your groceries.
Yeah.
Same stuff. Various cards highlighting different popular SKUs in BC will be shared with retailers in the coming weeks. In addition, the Alliance is highlighting an additional fee charged by the BC government to use their direct delivery program, which allows some small BC growers to ship directly to retailers. The program was touted as a way to help small craft growers and producers in BC, but the BC LDB has kept the 15% proprietary fee they charge to warehouse and distribute cannabis attached to these direct sales. This is despite the provincial cannabis distributor not actually handling or processing these direct sales in any way.
Yeah.
How's that fair?
Ontario has something similar. They say, according to Alana Davies, she says that the addition of this 15% markup to be paid to the government, despite them not ever handling the product at any point in the supply chain, is an example of the government saying one thing to support small farms and doing the opposite. Now, the organization has also created a petition to draw attention to the BC specific issue, which calls for the BC LDP to drop its proprietary fee for direct delivery from 15% to 3.5% to help improve economic viability for all cannabis producers. I'm gonna go let the dog out. So finish her up.
Okay. BC is home to some of Canada's favorite cannabis brands, but excessive taxation means our best growers, processors, and retailers are struggling to get by, says the organization's website. Between taxes, fees, and markups, the government often takes the most while contributing the least. For BC's most popular products, that take can be more than half. We're here to rally support for simple changes while helping policy makers create a more sustainable cannabis industry.
There you go.
Insane. Yeah. How about taking it from $15 to $0 because they're not doing anything? Well, why would they even pay 3.5% for nothing?
Well, yeah, that's the government taking that money.
Yeah, they're taking
That is before
15% for nothing.
that's already removed before the producers down to the $15. So it
You
goes
wonder why all these producers are having a hard time, because the
oh,
goddamn government is taking everything like they do with everything else.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I know, eh? Tax, 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 as they say, eh? So all right.
Yeah.
On to the next story. Here we go. This is from the Dallas News. It says cannabis on the mind. UTD study finds connection between sleep, memory, and cannabis use.
As support for cannabis decriminalization grows in North Texas, new research is shedding light on the drug's impact on sleep and memory. In a recent study published by the American Journal of Drug and Alcohol Abuse, researchers at the University of Texas of Dallas found that adults with cannabis use disorder tended to experience poorer sleep than those without the condition. They also perform more poorly on tests assessing virtuospatial memory, or the ability to retain and process information about an object's appearance and location.
What this paper does is provide a bridge between the two things, sleep and memory, and helps establish that perhaps some of the memory impairment associated with cannabis use is indeed due to poor sleep quality, according to Christopher Barico. He's an associate professor of psychiatry and research at Baylor College of Medicine. The study also underscores that many unknowns surrounding cannabis' impact on the human body and the need to be cautious when using it, says Ashley Garling. She's a clinical assistant professor at the University of Texas.
In 2022 survey of more than 27,000 people between the ages of 16 and 65 in the US and Canada, almost half reported using cannabis to help with sleep. In another survey commissioned by the American Academy of Sleep Medicine in 2023, a quarter of Americans reported occasionally or regularly using cannabis to help them stay or fall asleep. And parents with children under 18 living at home were more likely than non-parents to use cannabis as a sleep aid. That's surprising.
Well, yeah, but you look at those numbers and you think, well, how can there be a negative effect?
True. Whether cannabis actually helps you fall asleep isn't clear. I can tell you it is very clear. Some studies and surveys suggest that it doesn't improve sleep, while others suggest it might, particularly in people with conditions that interfere with sleep, like chronic pain.
Additionally, the two main active ingredients in cannabis, THC and CBD, influence sleep in different ways. Low doses of THC may improve sleep, while higher doses may disrupt it. The opposite is true for CBD. Now, studies have shown that long-term cannabis use can... it jumped on me.
Can impair cognitive function. You got that back?
No, keep going.
Okay, can impair cognitive function depending on what age someone starts using. A 2016 study tracking over 3,000 middle-aged adults over 2 decades found that of those who used cannabis for more than 5 years, their verbal memory was worse compared to those who used cannabis less often. A 2018 study found that young people who used cannabis frequently were more likely to score lower on memory tests and not do as well at learning new information and higher level problem solving compared to their non-using peers. A separate 2018 study found cognitive performance among young cannabis users improved when they stopped using.
But studying cannabis' effect on both memory and sleep had not been done before, says Francisco Philby, director of University of Texas at the Dallas Cognitive Neuroscience Laboratory of Addictive Disorders, who led the study. They say memory has been widely known to be a potential impairment as a result of cannabis use, but we didn't know yet what the mechanisms are. We especially don't know how that relates to people who use cannabis as a sleep aid.
And to answer that, Philby and Tracy Brown, the study's first author and PhD student at the University of Texas at Dallas, surveyed more than 200 people from Dallas and the Netherlands about their sleep quality within the past week. 141 respondents had cannabis use disorder, a condition marked by dependency on cannabis that affects 3 in 10 people who use it. The other 87 had used cannabis in the past, but not as frequently and not within the 3 months prior to the study. Those with cannabis use disorder reported more sleep problems compared to the other group. They also tended to perform not as well on the test assessing their visuospatial memory.
Oh, well, I seem to have no problem falling asleep. Well, this finding indirectly ties cannabis use to memory. Brown says there is likely underlying mechanism, the endocannabinoid system, a recently discovered signal network that regulates sleep, learning, and memory among the other functions. Cannabinoids, chemicals in the heart of this system, are produced naturally by our bodies and are found in cannabis. Now, according to Brown, they say that what we know about the endocannabinoid system is that it's a regulatory process within its own right, but it signals circadian rhythms or sleep-wake cycles. Now, he added that sleep is crucial for the brain's ability to consolidate new information into memories.
The next
Go ahead.
The next step to exploring cannabis' impact on sleep and memory will be to study brain activity during sleep to gauge how restorative it is in real time. Future studies will also need to investigate how differing amounts of THC and CBD in the body affect sleep and memory, said Garling at UT Austin, who added that the amount varied based on how cannabis is taken. How biological sex affects the interplay between cannabis, sleep, and memory will also need to be considered because the study had more male participants than female. Studies looking at long-term cannabis use have found that sleep in women is impacted at a higher rate compared to men. Wow.
Philby and Brown emphasize this study is just the first step to a better understanding how cannabis impacts the brain and that more studies are needed given the public health concern posed by its widespread acceptance. Brown says that with any type of medication, you have all these different clinical trials, but with cannabis, it's putting the cart before the horse. We're legalizing it, not necessarily at the federal level, but the state level for medical and recreational use. But the fact that it's being legalized for medical use is informing people that this is something safe or effective. We don't have that kind of research yet. Now, under federal law, cannabis is classified as a Schedule I drug with a high risk of abuse and no legal use. Though exceptions can be made with permission from the DEA, this classification has posed a significant roadblock for clinical research, Finley says, but she is optimistic that it will soon change because in April, the DEA announced it would consider bumping cannabis down to a Schedule III, and it would remain a controlled substance, but the move would acknowledge its potential medical use and make research easier.
Medical cannabis in Texas is legal only for people with conditions including severe epilepsy, autism, cancer, or PTSD. Outside of those conditions, cannabis use and possession continues to be penalized. That's it.
That's it. Be penalized for my Crohn's disease.
Imagine that, eh?
Because it's not on there, right? It's not listed there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Last story before we go to break as I bring her up. And this is a bit of an update on right here in good old Canada. And here we go. Here's the story. Headline says Canada's medical cannabis system changed but didn't disappear after recreational legalization. And this comes to us from the Medical Express.
When Canada legalized recreational cannabis use on October 17th, 2018, there were concerns about the potential impact. Would it trigger greater cannabis use, boost economic growth, or otherwise affect the country's health, safety, and finances? Patients already using cannabis legally for medical purposes were especially concerned. They worried that recreational legalization might prompt physicians to stop authorizing cannabis treatments, or that cannabis producers would abandon the small medical market to pursue the higher recreational one. And for the most part, they did.
On both of those, I know a host right here on the network whose doctor said to them, well, why should I give you a license for 15 grams when you can go to the store and buy 30?
Yeah, true.
Yeah. After recreational legalization, the medical cannabis system did see declines between June of 2018 and December of 2022. The number of registered patients fell 32%, while product sales fell 29%. Some people thought that the medical cannabis system had failed or become obsolete. As someone who studies the business aspects of cannabis legalization, I wondered about these issues too. It wasn't clear how patients, producers, or healthcare providers would react to recreational legalization. Legal medical use itself had only become accessible a few years earlier. Well, what do you mean a few years? 2000, like 17 years earlier.
Yeah. Canada began allowing medical use of cannabis in 1999, but it remained difficult to get until regulations changed during 2024 or 2014 to 2015. The new rules allowed any physician to authorize patients to use cannabis. Those patients could then register to buy products online from licensed cannabis producers. Online orders could not exceed a 30-day supply.
Yeah, and some patients grew, right? Under this new procedure, the number of patients registering to buy cannabis soared. They grew from 7,900 in June of 2014 to 330,000 in June of 2018, nearly 1% of Canada's population. However, registration levels differed greatly between provinces, and in June of 2018, registrations represented almost 3% of Alberta's population versus only 0.1% of Quebec's. Yeah, that's because Quebec had it. Yeah, they weren't.
Their laws weren't the same as everybody else's. Interesting, less than half of our registrants bought medical cannabis in any given month. Perhaps they simply didn't need the full dose, or maybe they found it too expensive, inconvenient, or ineffective. In June 2018 was also when the federal government legislation. The law took effect in pardon?
Oh, go ahead. I heard a pop. So.
The law took effect in October 2018 when recreational sales of dried cannabis and cannabis oils began. After initial product shortages were overcome, recreational cannabis sales grew rapidly as more stores opened, even during the COVID-19 pandemic. The consumer's choice expanded in December 2019 when edibles and vapes became available.
One thing there I just want to mention, it says as you read off there about the less than half the registrants bought medical cannabis in any given month because they found it too expensive, inconvenient, or ineffective. A lot of patients grew their own cannabis.
Yep.
They didn't have to buy it.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised that is not included in there as a reason why.
That was me. I grew my own. So
yeah, same here. Exactly. Now they say this is where my new study came in. I analyzed government data on patients' use of Canada's medical cannabis system between 2017 and 2022. This included how many patients registered, how often they placed orders, and how much cannabis they bought. I found that as soon as Parliament passed the new cannabis law, medical registrants began slowing down, despite recreational legalization still being 4 months away.
But the response differed noticeably between provinces. For example, registrations kept growing steadily in Quebec, but plummeted rapidly in Alberta. Other provinces were in between. My data doesn't say why those campaigns occurred or where those changes occurred. Perhaps Alberta, with its copious cannabis clinics, had many patients only mildly interested in using cannabis medically. Conversely, maybe Quebec was still catching up with other provinces on medical use.
Or maybe it was because in Alberta they had one of the highest amount of stores and people just started going to the store instead.
Yeah.
Yeah. June 2018 was also when the federal government passed its new cannabis legislation. The law took effect in October of 2018 with recreational sales of dried cannabis and cannabis oils began, and after initial product shortages were overdue. Oh, I think my screen jumped because that sounds like you've already read that.
Where I don't know where you are.
My screen is jumping. Come on.
Okay. They might have been due to retail convenience. At that time, medical producers and recreational stores were selling similar products, dried cannabis and cannabis oil. So perhaps some patients started topping up their supplies occasionally at recreational stores, but saw no reason to leave the online medical system completely.
And that's what I said, is that, the stores.
Yeah. Yeah, and now that they're getting a reasonable price, at least on the reserves, that's where I shop. I don't grow very much myself.
Yeah. Now they say when edibles and other processed products began selling in December 2019, registrants dropped further, but the patients who remain bought medical cannabis slightly more often and in increasing larger quantities. Product selections might explain this patient split. Perhaps producers with good edible products retain their customers and receive larger orders from them. Because conversely, maybe medical producers offering few edibles lost their patients to the recreational shops and their vast product assortments.
Makes sense. In summary, Canada's medical cannabis system experienced big changes after recreational legalization, but didn't disappear, while other countries see similar outcomes if they allow recreational cannabis.
In Europe, for example, the Netherlands is experimenting with recreational sales. Meanwhile, Germany has legalized recreational use, but not retail sales. While those countries experience medical cannabis changes like Canada did. Yeah. So you're going to have legalized recreational, but you don't have anywhere for people to buy
it. You can't get it. That's typical government, isn't it?
Well, they have, I think they were setting up co-ops and stuff like that, people to grow and things. But yeah.
I just find it astounding that they changed the laws, but after the laws changed, there is nowhere to get it. Why would they get it all together and do it at once?
Especially if they say they're trying to eliminate the black market, but not allowing retail sales. It doesn't do that.
No,
now, conversely, some countries barely tolerate even medical use. It is very difficult to legally obtain medical cannabis in the United Kingdom, for example, much like in Canada 20 years ago. And France has only conducted a few medical cannabis trials. Well, in France, they want to outlaw CBD as a carcinogen.
Other countries like Australia and New Zealand are somewhere in between. They're seeing rapid growth in legal medical use and illegal recreational use, but haven't legalized recreationally. That's roughly where Canada was 10 years ago. Will Canada's medical and recreational cannabis experiences make other countries more interested in legalization or less? Either way, I hope they can learn from our experiences as they chart their own cannabis paths. And I'd say it's going to make a lot more countries more prone to legalize cannabis, because all you have to do is read the last story, how much taxes they're raking in on our cannabis. It's 50% plus.
Oh, it's they get most of the money. So, all right, it's break time. Time to medicate. We'll be right back after a medical session. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News right here at PACEradio.net.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at PACEradio.net.
Legacy 420 have an awesome array of cannabis-infused beverages, from pop to Nature's Nectar's teas, all in amazing flavors. What a selection! We even have a delicious mango-infused juice, and let me tell you, it's delicious.
Everything is infused in-house, so we buy our syrup from, the same place where everybody else buys their syrup for their pop, and the infusion is done in the lab. It's all canned here, labeled here, produced 100% on Tyndonega.
We have two lines of drinks. One's called our Nature's Nectar. That was our original line that we came out with. And then we also have a line under the Red E brand. We have them in 10 milligrams, 30 milligram, and 60 milligram cans.
What a great selection for a get-together with friends or after a long day. Remember, if you want to wet your whistle with on-site lab-tested products, come see your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. Open Monday to Friday from 10 till 7 p.m. or by chance. Check out our flags, our t-shirts, plus our hats. And look of that supply of rolling papers, plus much more. We've got bongs and your favorite herbal vaporizers. Look at all the incense we have, as well as for those who collect knives, check out these knives in our collection. And while you're here, stop in to see Shay at the piercing room, where you can get poked by Shay. Daily deals, check them out. Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford, Ontario. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop, Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. Are you looking for non-stop, continuous cannabis and psychedelic programming? If you are, then turn your browsers to 420radio.ca or PACEradio.net, where you will find the 420 Pace re-rolled Saturday. Everything gets started at 8 a.m. Eastern Saturday morning.
You're listening to the P.A.C.E Radio Network here at PACEradio.net.
We're back from a medical session to bring you some more news. I got a message over the break as well. Text message. Yeah. Person looking for some literature on vaping of cannabis, because I'm gonna say, how do we word this? If someone that they know was told that the vaping of cannabis is bad, and they were told this by their doctor.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, doctors aren't really known to be too informed on cannabis yet.
Yeah. And I didn't have a lot of time to send a message back to them, but I did mention that at one time in the U.S. there was problems with vaping because products that were put into it, additives, right? It wasn't the cannabis itself, wasn't whole plant cannabis that's being vaped like in a volcano or something. So, all right. Well, I'll have to send them some information after we're done the news. All right. So let's get into our next story. Headline here says research links psilocybin to enhance motivation, and this comes from the technologynetworks.com.
Research from Monash University demonstrates that rats given psilocybin exhibit increased optimism and motivation in reward-based. How do they know optimism? That's a weird one. Mm-hmm. This study provides insights into how psilocybin may address core symptoms of major depression, paving the way to future human trials and understanding its therapeutic mechanisms. The takeaways: psilocybin treatment led to long-lasting optimistic behavior in rats, indicating potential benefits for depression. The study utilized computational modeling to analyze the effects of psilocybin on information processing and behavior, and researchers aim to identify who may benefit from psychedelic therapies based on their findings, enhancing treatment strategies for depression.
Now, the university researchers have made a breakthrough in the study of psychedelics to treat disorders, including major depression, demonstrating that rats given psilocybin exhibit increased optimism over time. Now, psilocybin, which is found in magic mushrooms, has shown promise as a novel treatment for depression. However, the information processing mechanisms affected by psilocybin are not well documented.
Now, a cross-disciplinary team of Monash University has used computational modeling to demonstrate that rats given psilocybin displayed long-lasting, increased optimistic behavior to perform reward-based tasks. The findings published in Translational Psychiatry suggest psilocybin may be helpful for addressing the core symptoms of major depression and other conditions characterized by reduced engagement and withdrawal.
Monash PhD candidate Elizabeth Fisher led the study, working with Professor Jacob Hoyway from the Monash Center for Consciousness and Contemplative Studies, and Dr. Claire Foley from the Monash Biomedicine Discovery Institute. Now, Professor Hoyway says the results are promising, a step towards explaining the mechanisms of how psychedelics may work to change the brain and increase engagement after treatment.
Our team found that rats given psilocybin were more motivated to explore their environment and perform reward-based tasks. These exciting results show the mechanisms of how psilocybin may work to increase optimism in an animal model, which we hope may translate to humans as well. Beth Fisher said that the study should motivate confirmation of these effects in human studies.
Yeah, she says that insights into the mechanisms of psilocybin allows us to unpack who may benefit from psychedelic therapies, as well as whose those treatments may not be beneficial for. And it says that with many people around the world affected by depression, our ultimate goal is to help build understanding of how psilocybin might be used to treat core symptoms people experience, such as diminished optimism, empathy, and withdrawal from the world around them.
And that's it.
There you go.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So optimism in rats. That's the funny thing to be able to figure out how if they're optimistic or not.
Probably if they are active, because they'll be more than likely in some type of maze.
Yeah.
And whether they were adventurous to find ways out of the maze versus maybe just sitting there and giving up hope. So
I've known a few people like that.
Yeah. Alrighty. On to the next article. This one comes to us from Forbes. Headline says New Mexico cannabis advocates call for tighter regulations.
Cannabis advocates in New Mexico are calling on lawmakers to tighten the rules for the regulated cannabis industry and unlicensed cannabis businesses, arguing that businesses are filling in a saturated market that faces competition from unregulated businesses. At a meeting of the legislator's Economic and Rural Development and Policy Committee on Tuesday, cannabis industry leaders called on lawmakers to give the state's cannabis regulators more authority to address unlicensed cannabis businesses.
Now, Justin Dye, CEO of licensed cannabis company R. Greenleaf, according to the report from the KRQE News, says there's a thriving illicit market. They're not paying tax revenue. They're not getting their products tested. They're not packaging them right. They're selling to the minors, he says. Competing with people who don't have to play by the rules, who don't pay taxes, who don't have to go through testing, who are a danger to our kids. We got to step up and do something about that, he added.
The same argument I've heard 100 times.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, same here.
It's the kids. This is about money. That's all it's about. Dye presented a list of proposed policy changes to the committee, including a proposal for the New Mexico Regulation and Licensing Department to add new inspectors to its Cannabis Control Division. Dye suggested increasing the number of inspectors to a level similar to other states such as Colorado and Oklahoma, which have 3 to 5 times as many inspectors per license holder. Until the CCD is able to deploy more inspectors, Dye proposed a temporary moratorium on issuing new cannabis business licenses. I don't understand that one. What is the licensed businesses? Why would you stop issuing new licenses? This is about unlicensed businesses.
Yeah, because it creates more legal stores that they think would create more work for the inspectors, I'm assuming.
Not forever. Let's just calm everything down, said Dye. Let's just simply simplify what we're doing. Let's enforce the rules that we have without bringing more and more folks into this that don't have all the experience to do this.
The proposal also calls for the state's cannabis inspectors to have more enforcement authority over businesses that are not complying with the regulations. Dye says, let's give them the rights to search, seize, destroy, and charge people.
No.
Dye also called on a ban on hemp-derived cannabinoids, which are not subject to the same regulations as cannabis. A California ban on hemp THC went into effect last month, while a similar prohibition in New Jersey that went into effect on Saturday is not being enforced because of legal challenges.
There are about 20 states that have outlawed it or regulated it, Di said. We need to at least have that conversation. RLD spokeswoman Andrea Brown told the Santa Fe, New Mexico, in an email last month that New Mexico's recreational cannabis legalization law was established to make the industry equally accessible to anyone who wanted to own and operate a licensed cannabis business in New Mexico. She noted that the state has seen success with the plan, with the regulated cannabis industry generating more than $1 billion in revenue in just 2 years.
Brown added that the CCD has performed a record-breaking number of inspections in the first half of 2024. He says that the CCD routinely assesses what is working and explores ways to find additional resources needed to hold back bad actors accountable. We will continue to work with lawmakers to revise the CRA as industry needs evolve, including discussing adding language that would give the CCD the ability to seize, embargo, and destroy illicit and illegal cannabis products when found.
Ben Lewinger, who's executive director of the New Mexico Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, said he supports regulators' efforts to create a recreational cannabis industry that is accessible to potential business owners, but he says the state's legalization law is missing a key piece that specified that the regulation and licensing department had the ability to throttle new licenses based on market conditions. Citing an oversaturated market, Lewinger added that the industry group would continue to push for such a regulation. On Tuesday's legislative committee meeting, RLD Superintendent Clay Bailey updated lawmakers on the CCD's progress regulating the cannabis industry. Since the beginning of the year, the agency has performed 2,200 inspections of the state's 3,000 licensed cannabis operations.
Oh, he says that we've struggled, as you've seen some of the news media on us, in terms of the percent of the inspections done. We're working towards it, and we're working really hard, Bailey says. We also called for more funding and equipment for the agency, as well as increased authority over the industry by law enforcement.
We had to get some more authority if you want us to handle the cannabis, Bailey said.
So there you go.
I'm never positive about giving other people more authority over things.
It's it's sometimes it's just crazy. You know what's going on.
I didn't think that was too bad. They inspected 2,200 out of 3,000 licensed ones. The only thing that they're complaining about is the unlicensed ones, which takes from their pocketbook.
Yeah, and so of those 2,200 inspections, did they inspect any illegal stores, or were they all legal stores?
It just said it was they're inspecting their own stores. So these are licensed stores.
Yeah.
It didn't say anything about the illegal stores. So I think that should be a police matter, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
You know, not another agency again.
No. All righty, on to our next story. And this one comes to us from the Hemp Gazette. It says that study results show that cannabis use and physical activity. You know, we're always told stoners are lazy.
Cannabis use has been, that's what we've been told our whole lives. Cannabis use has been widely associated with less physical activity, creating a lazy stereotype. Some studies indicate otherwise. In analysis released this month, researchers from Brigham Young University used behavior risk factor surveillance system data to evaluate the association between cannabis use and the physical activity among adults in several U.S. states and territories covering the period of 2016 to 2022. And I got to say, there's lazy people and there's people that are active all the time.
Correct.
Whether they're using cannabis or not.
Exactly. That's right. The primary dependent variable of the research was based on the question: did you participate in physical activity or exercise during the past 30 days apart from your regular job? The primary independent variable was based on the question: during the past 30 days, on how many days did you use cannabis? And my answer would be 30 days.
Yes, same with me.
Yeah. Yeah, 30 days. No one's called me lazy. Now, based on the yes or no responses, the researchers observed. Go
A
ahead.
positive association between current cannabis use and physical activity after adjusting for selected demographic variables. Legalization directly corresponded to greater physical activity, particularly with legalized recreational cannabis. It is well established chronic prior medical conditions significantly lower physical activity, but this negative association was only observed in non-cannabis users. In cannabis users, physical activity wasn't significantly lower. Well,
Wow.
that goes
Yeah,
against everything we've always been told.
it sure does.
Hmm.
Maybe it's that government information that most of the people don't trust.
Yeah.
While acknowledging a number of limitations of the study, the researchers concluded public policy and personal health behaviors may improve with the findings that legal medical cannabis promotes greater physical activity in those experiencing chronic medical conditions, and legal recreational cannabis promotes, even more so, greater physical activity in those not experiencing chronic medical conditions. The study has also been published in the Journal of Cannabis Research.
And it should be noted that other studies investigating the association between cannabis use and physical activity have indicated mixed results, with various investigations showing increased, relatively unchanged, or even reduced physical activity. The BYU study report cites some of these and notes the inconsistent findings in these studies may be due to the different types of physical activity involved and different ways to measure physical activity. Commenting on the findings of the BYU research, Normal's deputy director, Paul Amertano, can barely see that, said the conclusions contradict the long-standing stereotypes. Sure do.
It sure does. It's unfortunate that many of these false claims have historically guided public health messaging about cannabis and have also been used to stigmatize and discriminate against those who consume it responsibly.
It's true.
It's true. Yeah. Yeah. So much for the lazy stoner, eh?
We've been told that our entire lives.
Oh,
They're all lazy. They don't do shit. They don't do work. They're on welfare. We've been told that our whole lives. Most of the people I meet have medical problems and they don't work because of that, or they're very physically active and they do a lot of shit. Even the people that have medical problems, they do a lot of things like this, and advocate and go out and march and go out and do things all the time.
And who knows? Maybe the dog owners like myself, and we get out and walk the dog a few times a day.
We do it. We take them every day after dinner for like 2, 3, 4 kilometer walks every single day. It's awesome. Yeah. I always smoke before I go. It's a great time.
I got a message about 20 minutes before we went live. Can you take Dre for a walk? So I'll be doing that. I said, I got to do the news first, so it's going to be after the news. So, yeah. All righty. Last story of the day, and this comes to us from Marijuana Moment with a headline that says, 10 GOP governors tell Supreme Court that state flexibility to legalize cannabis should extend to laws restricting transgender care.
If anybody can tell me what those things have in common or have to do with each other, I'll be happy to know.
Yeah, I know. When this story came up in our discussion before the show, it was, what is the connection? So we're gonna go through it and see what all it says here.
I haven't read it because I wanted to wait till I was on air here, but the headline alone made me want to put this story in there.
I haven't read it. I didn't see it until you sent it to me. So
10 Republican governors are arguing before the U.S. Supreme Court that the flexibility states have generally been afforded to legalize cannabis, in spite of federal prohibition, is an example of why you should also have the right to ban gender-affirming medical care for youth. In an amicus curiae brief submitted to the court on Tuesday, South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster, a Republican, and 9 other Republican governors made multiple mention of state-level cannabis laws. If states had been able to set their own cannabis policies, even as cannabis remains federally criminalized, that same standard should be applied to transgender healthcare laws, they said.
The brief was submitted in the case United States versus Scameti, which was raised by 3 transgender youth and their families who sued the state of Tennessee over a law banning gender-affirming care, including the prescription of treatments such as puberty blockers and hormone replacement therapy for transgender minors. On medical cannabis, the states have addressed the topic in conflicting ways, the governor said. Some states have legalized medical cannabis. A different group of states now allows people to possess cannabis for any reason, despite the Controlled Substances Act. Meanwhile, other states continue to prohibit any use of cannabis, and that's why it needs to be federally legalized.
Yeah.
So you don't have this fluctuation of different laws. Go ahead.
Just as states have the flexibility to regulate medical cannabis vaccines and abortion, they may choose how to approach transgender medical procedures for children. The governor said, cannabis vaccines and abortion are examples of the state's well-established practice of legislating on contentious medical questions. Abortion's not a well-established legislating contentious medical conditions thing. It just happened.
Well, it was established for 52 years.
No, I mean they just eliminated that. So they haven't had a chance to do much legislating on it. McMaster was joined in the brief by the GOP governors of Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, South Dakota, and Utah.
Notably, while they are attempting to make the case that state cannabis laws support their underlying argument about transgender care, many of the governors have strongly resisted efforts to enact legislation in their states, such as Governor Ron DeSantis and South Dakota Kristi Noem. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court on Tuesday heard oral arguments in the separate case of a trucker who sued a cannabis company after he was fired over a positive THC test that he says was caused by consuming a hemp-derived CBD product. Justices, during questioning, zeroed in on how exactly the worker was harmed by the incident and whether his losses qualify for triple damages under the federal law.
In August, justices separately heard arguments from the Justice Department in a case, United States versus Daniels, where the agency asserted that the federal government's ban on cannabis users owning guns is supported by a recent Supreme Court decision that upheld the government's ability to limit the Second Amendment rights of people with domestic violence restraining orders. What the fuck does cannabis have to do with domestic violence here in this?
Yeah, and why? I don't even understand why they outlaw for people who have cannabis allowed to say that they can't have a gun. Like, where's the violence? Where's the concern come in?
The case was set to be considered by the High Court, but it was amongst a number of firearms-related cases remanded back to lower courts following last month's domestic violence ruling. I fear that this is going to go through because of who sits on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So, alrighty. Well, there we go. Got all the stories in today.
All in today.
And what do you got planned for the rest of the day?
Well, it's looking, it's a little cold out there still, but it is sunny. So we're going to be going out and doing something outside.
I'm going
only
outside.
12 or 13. So.
I got some harvesting to do, so I got to go outside. That's where I'll be spending my day.
Yep. Well, have fun with that.
Oh, I will. I'm sure I'll take lots of pictures, as I always do. All right. Anything else?
Peace all.
Okay, from the Legacy420.com news desk, that's our P.A.C.E. news report for today. Thanks to our buds at the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, Limestone City, Hydroponics.ca, as well as at ease.ca and Legacy420.com. In closing, we'd like to say thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in, and please don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate, because incarceration has never worked, right, Glenn?
Yep, never has, never will.
You're listening to the P.A.C.E. Radio Network here at PACERadio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more. We've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at PACEradio.net.